Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now, guys? We're just finished off with another midweek game under the floodlights in domestic action, where Celtic have came out with, when it was all said and done, quite a comfortable win. Despite ringing 8 or 9 changes into the starting 11, this was not a routine match by any stretch of the imagination, and we've got a lot of meat on the bones to get stuck into in the video today, as we look at how the game actually panned out, what we've seen in terms of what the manager's maybe working towards with some of the players, as well as what some of the players did show on the pitch who were probably in last chance saloon, really given centre stage. This is your time. Go and show us what you can do against this level of opponent if you want to keep your jersey, if you want to keep yourself in the squad. And, you know, we're talking about the changes there, but even in the second half, there was some really interesting changes that I was really excited to watch unfold, and we did call on the preview video as well. At any point in this video today, but if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. We are pushing for 10,000 subscribers and we are this close. So if you do enjoy the content, smash the subscribe button for more stuff like this, of course, and get into the comment section and let me know what your big takeaway was from Celtic versus Dundee. Anything you've seen or anything that you want to have a chat about regards to what's in the video today. I love getting stuck into the comment sections after the videos go out to see your guys' thoughts and feelings, takes and insights and all the rest of it. And yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it, because I don't know about you guys, but when the team sheet came out, I have to stop myself from using the word sad, right? But I've never felt like that going to Celtic Park ever in my life. Even if it's a game where it's, you know, maybe even a European tie where we're expecting to probably lose. When the team sheet comes out, you always get lifted a little bit because you're like, right, come on, let's just get stuck into it. The team's looking good, or this guy's playing, he might be able to do something. But when that team sheet came out last night, honestly, like, it was the opposite. It was like, Jesus, is this the slowest starting 11 he could have possibly picked? Is Palma going to be good enough? What is Yang going to bring? Is Taylor fit enough? With 3 changes to the back 4, will we still keep a clean sheet? And really, how will the patterns of play actually look with a lot of key players, especially in midfield? No Hatate, no McGregor. You know, how will this all actually shake out? And I don't think I was alone in that. You could definitely feel a bit of an air of, I don't know if trepidation or nerves or, you know, anxiety or whatever, but there was definitely a different mood pre-kickoff. You know, I haven't seen the starting 11 of, yeah, like, how is this actually going to go? And like I say, you could really feel it in the stadium. You could really feel it all the way down to the pitch. Dundee almost scored in this game in the opening minute or so. They won a really dodgy free kick round about this area over here, and Kasper Schmeichel had to pull out the most important moment of the match for him in the opening 60 seconds or something like that. Fantastic save from the big man, of course. And then from there, you know, we started to get on the ball a bit more and get the patterns of play moving. And this is where, like, honestly, like, the first half was one of two things for me. I was either, like, had steam coming out my ears, and apologies to anyone who was sitting next to me last night, because I was effing and jeffing all the way through this one, because there was two things about the first half. Number one, it was so slow. It was so boring. Honestly, like, if I was at home and really comfy and maybe a wee bit drunk or something, I could have maybe nodded off. It was so slow and pedestrian. And, you know, when the midfield is Bernardo, Engels, Ralston's in at right back, Palma's in over this side here. We know Taylor isn't lightning, although he's very nippy. It just took forever for anything meaningful to really happen. And as the first half went on, Dundee kind of went into their, you know, 2 banks of 5 and 4 with their kind of press happy forward too. Actually, it was really funny to see Simon Murray play this game, because I was on Celtic State of Mind AXOM earlier this week, and I was mentioning to them last year there was a player in the league that we were highlighting on the channel as being like the Ginger Maeda, and I'm pretty sure it was this guy, and he maybe didn't have the full Ginger Maeda shift that we've seen him do last year, but he was, you know, very much up for doing a bit of the press and being a bit of a nuisance whenever we were trying to build out in this shape here. But the rest of the team was a bank of 5 and a bank of 4, stay deep, tight and narrow, and let Celtic really ask some big questions. And the only question we were asking in the first half, which kept me awake and kept the steam coming out my ears and the effing and jeffing that I've apologised for, is we were shaping up, and it basically looked something to the tune of like this, where we would get them into their own half. We would get the centre-backs up nice and high as we normally do. We've got Greg Taylor back doing that inverted fullback wildcard situation where he could pop up either, you know, overlap or inverted, these types of roles. Bernardo retaining the McGregor position, which was great to see in the first half, of being that shield in front of the defence. Engels, honestly, like, we'll talk about Engels a little bit more in a second, but he was just really over on this side of the pitch all the time. And McKeown was quite nippy in the opening stages, but again, there wasn't too much crossover from right to left. from him either. But almost every opportunity we got on the ball in the first half, we were going down the left relentlessly. And this is why everyone's kind of talking about Luis Palma after this game, because seriously, like, he could put on the ball out in this position in the first half, I'm going to say 15 times. It genuinely was ridiculous. You could audibly hear the frustration from me and everyone else, I think, in the stadium every single time. We would have the ball getting passed around like we would maybe threaten, we'd get the ball to Ralston, and you'd maybe think we're about to go down the right hand side, we're going to give Yang a chance to get on the ball. Genuinely, in the first half, I don't think we played Yang on the right hand side more than twice, maybe 3 times at an absolute push, but so often we would come onto the right, and then very quickly, or maybe not very quickly, depending on how it went, we would put the ball onto Palma. And even when it was build-up play and it was looking like we were going left, and then sometimes we would do that switch where we look like we were about to go left, but then we quickly switch it and play right. It never happened. We went to Palma every single time. And I was starting to think, watching this game, that there's been very clear and very deliberate instructions from the manager to the team that in this game, put Palma on the ball. Palma is starting, and this is a game where we're going to give you every opportunity to show why you deserve to be at the club, to show, like, this is the thing that's always ruffled me up about Palma, is he's a number 7 for Celtic, and since he showed up, he's never looked anything like it. And I think, like, we'll kind of get to it in a little minute in a bit more detail, I suppose, but what this game gave us was a great microcosm of what Palma is and offers, as well as Yang, and their qualities and their deficiencies and all the rest of it. And it's really good now that everyone has had that opportunity to see them both in this kind of setting against a team that we're going to dominate the ball against. We should, my score prediction was 5-0. I heard lots of 4s and 3-0s. Obviously, we came out with it with 2-0 in the end. But I did feel that this was like, this is your time. There's no excuses. You're getting on from the start. We're going to put you on the ball at every opportunity, and it's up to you to do something. And it really did feel that way, that we were throwing him into the deep end, and it was like, do something. This is your time. You've been chapping at the bit. He's maybe been causing fuss in the background. I'm just, it's just conjecture. I don't know anything or whatever. But it felt so deliberate that it felt like it was the plan from the manager, because players switch on to stuff very quickly. And this guy, Ingram, or Lakerche, or Mulligan, didn't matter who Palma was faced up with 1v1. Sometimes 2 of them would go over and Taylor would need to bail him out with an overlap or something like that. But it didn't matter who he was 1v1 against. He cannot, and I've been saying this since the day he showed up, he cannot get by anyone. He really can't. He can't even, what's really frustrating about it is he can't even just be like a really good professional footballer and play a 1-2, move into space and get it back. He can play someone else into space and then just kind of hang out, which is fine. But there was a wee moment in this match at some point where Luke McCowan, the ball was bouncing about, and, it's like shoulder high, he lifts his leg and he has a wee flick on the outside of the foot to someone else, and then he spins round and gets into a bit of space and gets the ball back. And you don't even need to be like doing all the step overs. You don't even need to be lightning fast, because not all players have those qualities, but there's still players without those qualities that can get by men, that can progress play, that can be effective footballers. And Luis Palma isn't even one-dimensional. He's zero-dimensional. Honestly, like, he shouldn't. And again, I'm just further convinced after watching him in this match, he is not good enough to play in Scotland. Normally, when we've got players at Celtic that aren't good enough, they're more like Yang. They're trying really hard. You can see there's something about them, but maybe it's just not working out. And obviously, we've had some real car crash incidents like the John Joe Kennys and the Laxalts and the Duffys or whatever or Barcass that just bomb scare their way out of it. They just can't handle the jersey. It's too heavy for them. And, you can just see that it's just not a right fit for them. And then most of those guys, when they leave, they actually just pick up in their career where they left off. Different environment, different style of play, different league situation, whatever it might be. But Palma, genuinely, for me, I know people were saying loan him to Aberdeen or something like that. I don't see him getting into very many teams in the SPFL, if any, because you can't carry a guy that can't beat a man in any way, shape or form. And hey, if that's who he is and that's what he's all about, fine. You can still try and make some situations where you can maximise a luxury player like that. This is probably one of the most appropriate uses of the term, because he would be a luxury. He's not pressing, he's not winning the ball back, he's not beating people, he's not attacking. And again, this was another thing that kind of went on in the first half that really did boil my blood, is if you are going to start Palma, right, let's just list his qualities, right? There's only a really short list of it. He's good at crossing, he's good at shooting, he loves a free kick, he loves a corner, and he loves taking penalties. Right, so if he loves all that stuff and we're giving him the audition time, centre stage, Luis Palma, you're starting against Dundee and we're going to put you on the ball all the time. Why was he not taking set pieces? Because that's surely the best thing that he's got about him. And, you know, the corners and free kicks we had, I don't think any of them were that bad, but we didn't score from any of them. None of them were that great either. And I did find that a bit perplexing. Maybe the manager doesn't want him to use set pieces as like a crutch to stat pad any success he might have in the game or whatever. But I was, again, getting deja vu from the reports where we're getting back from Celtic fans that watched the Sligo Rovers match, where it was the exact same apparently, where he was doing all this stuff out here and then just passing inside or just passing back. And you know, there was one nice opportunity in the first half where it was like, I was close to just going for a pie, going early for half time, where he gets back on the ball for the 18th time on the left-hand side, and there's a pocket of space where he manages to drop into this area here. He doesn't come across the box or try and take the man on. He actually just dips deeper. And as he done that, Engels broke into the box. He played a really nice ball, and it was unlucky that nothing came from it. And that's the sort of thing I'm talking about. You need to, you know yourself, know your teammates, and find different solutions. Like if this Ingram, who was quite tall, if he was too big and too strong and too fast, then how else can you get by your opponent? This guy is a professional footballer who goes to football training with this team every fucking day. Now, I know they don't train, excuse the language, I know they don't train every day, but, you know, you understand the point I'm getting. It's not like he's just showed up. It's not like he's an 18-year-old that's still trying to get senior football experience or anything like that. He's a Honduras international, so he's played football often enough to a good enough level enough that the problems he doesn't have answers to is unacceptable. And really, the first half was all about him, whether it was because we were putting him on the ball, whether it was because when he was on the ball, he couldn't do anything with it. But the whole first half was really about him. And I did feel that it really did, it really took a lot of the natural play, the kind of slick cohesion that we have for a lot of these players in the squad already that are somewhat regulars that have played enough minutes and all the rest of it, because it was so much like, we can't switch to the right-hand side because we need to go back to the left in a second to give the ball to Palma. And because of this, like Engels, for me, didn't cross over. If you can imagine, well, we don't need to imagine because we've got the tactics board here. But if we draw a big line up the middle here, the problem I've got with these lines is sometimes I can't delete them. But if you can imagine a line up the centre of the pitch here, Engels in the first half was just stuck in this position here. And for our attacking midfielders, the two that play off the one in the middle, the best passages of play we get is when they cross that line. Even if it's just over into this area here where I've got Engels now, never mind when they come all the way over to the other side to create a real overload, to really try and suck some people into positions they don't want to be in, to then allow maybe somebody else to pop in. And really throughout the first half, we should have got a goal at some point. Kyogo has missed two big chances in this match, which again, wasn't too surprising. You know, there was one opportunity when it was 0-0, it was in the second half where he's broke into this space here, he was on the ball, and he's ended up taking a shot from this position here, and he could have been crossing it. We had other options on there. And in the first half, the two 1v1s that he had on the opposite end of the pitch, like, Kyogo has to be scoring one of those chances at some point. You know, like, I'm a huge Kyogo fan, huge Kyogo admirer. And, you know, like this whole best striker since Larson stuff, I kind of get it in a lot of ways. But he misses far too many big chances consistently. He's consistently far too greedy, especially when it's 0-0. And when we're burying him into a back five and a back four here, and we're trying to get Palma to wing a ball in, or we're trying to get Ralston to float one in from this position here, like, he has to know he's not getting many chances, and he has to make these chances count. And, like, seriously, like, the main centre forward at Celtic should be getting 30, 35 goals in the league, or across all competitions at the very least. And Kyogo's not on track for that. I'd be very surprised if he breaks into the 30s. The 20s are probably going to be there for him. But he really needs to sharpen his pencil. He really needs to get the finger out and start putting more of these chances away, because it would have just relieved a bit more of the pressure on the likes of Palma, the likes of maybe Bernardo and Engels with whatever they're kind of trying to figure out, as well as the likes of Ralston and Yang coming in. Because when it's 0-0 and the game's on a bit of a knife edge here, nobody wants to put a foot wrong. Nobody wants to lose the ball. And it's your striker's job to go and win you the match. And when those opportunities are made, he has to finish them. So I don't think it was good enough from Kyogo, particularly in the first half, and then with that chance he had in the opening of the second half. It was good to see Taylor back, and really it didn't really look like he'd missed a beat, to be honest with you. He was his usual self. And in the opening stages of this game, he was the Callum McGregor on the pitch here. You've seen him in this position here, talking to Engels, Bernardo, even the centre-backs, and telling them about distances and where to be on the pitch and trying to move along. And it felt like he was like the coach on the pitch, and it really did kind of bring back home again, as much as like we've enjoyed watching Alex Valley, the importance that Taylor has in the squad, the experience he has, and the leader that he is, within the group as well. So I think it was a decent kind of shift from Taylor, especially in the first half. It was nice to see him back in town and all the rest of it. But I thought it was quite funny how we had two Scottish fullbacks, because we know Scotland is great at producing fullbacks at this moment. And then what are Americans known for these days? Well, maybe a wall, So we had an American centre backs, and then we had our Scottish fullbacks. So it was a fun little kind of dynamic to see there. But Trusty and Vickers looked really, really good together. Looked really, really good. And other than that opening minute or so, there wasn't anything from Dundee that really gave us any pause for the cause. And I suppose the last thing I would say before we come on to the second half and the substitutes and whatever is Bernardo did a good enough job in this kind of shield position here. And with McKeown still playing the same role that he was playing at the weekend with Bernardo, where they weren't quite in a double pivot, but McKeown was never too far away from Bernardo, and then he was quite quick to go and try and support the attack if he could. But I found it weird, and there's a bit of an answer to this we'll talk about in the second half, but I found it weird that Engels went over to the left, because Engels, every minute that he's played for Celtic, has been in the Matt O'Reilly position on the right hand side here, linking up with the winger and the fullback and trying to do something over here, which has been fine. But it felt like with Engels on this side and McKeown on this side, where we're looking for more of those inside passes, with McKeown being a left footer and with Engels being a right footer, that we might be able to try and find the forward, Kyogo, a little bit more. But he was just absolutely buried in between these players here. And yeah, sometimes he was trying to make those runs, but it was just so hard to find them. And that's why you need the fullbacks to do a bit more, or you need the wingers to be a bit better. But because we were relentlessly going down the left, it just didn't feel like we even got the chance to see maybe that dynamic, that passage of play maybe open out. So at half-time at 0-0, I'm not going to lie, you could probably tell already, but I was not happy at what I was seeing. It was close to being so boring, so low level. Like Celtic really did just look for large spells in that first half, like just another SPFL team, essentially. We didn't have any lightning pace. We didn't have anyone that was clearly the playmaker. We were trying to get on the ball. And even our striker, when he was getting chances, wasn't putting them away. And it felt like those couple of changes that we made, the guys that came in from the cold tier, like Palma, Ralston, Yang, you might even say bringing in Taylor and Vickers, a little bit rusty as it were, it just felt like it just really normalised the squad. We lost a lot of our X factor. And I was really surprised, and I was saying, like, hey, if Palma comes out that tunnel, I'm home. I didn't actually mean it, but I was just trying to get across the point of, how upset I was at the first half and just how I couldn't watch any more of this give Palma the ball stuff that we were doing. But we came out for the second half, and like I mentioned, Kyogo gets a decent chance quite early. But one thing that did start to change in the second half is that, yeah, we were still trying to put Palma on the ball and all the rest of it. But in the first 10 minutes of the second half, we started to put Yang on the ball a lot more. Now, we've mentioned Palma, right, and what he's lacking and what he offers, right? What Yang offers, number one, is a guy that you can tell is bursting to make it happen, is a guy that really wants it to work out. Very similar to Bernardo. I think a lot of people give Bernardo a lot of latitude because of how much he loves being a Celtic player, and you can tell that he's really playing for the colours, and this means everything to him, and we totally get that from Yang. The other thing Yang gives you is he's very direct. He's happy to take a man on 1v1, and although his delivery and all the rest of it isn't to the same standard as even Palma's, but it isn't top notch, he causes people problems. And after Yang got put on the ball once, maybe twice, they started doubling up on him, and Yang had two guys to deal with very quickly, and maybe he would beat one and the second one might stop him from really penetrating the box and getting a shot away. Oh, the tactics board's going wonky on us today here. But he had two guys to deal with over here, and he was looking... Let's fix you up, Yang, sorry. There we go. And he was looking capable of beating one of them. Beating two man is a very difficult thing, and we've spoken about this last year when Nicholas Kuhn was first breaking into the team, even when everyone was saying, oh, he doesn't really look up to it. Kuhn was beating one guy all the time. It was when he comes on to guy 2 or 3 he was struggling with last year, and this year he's got a bit better at that. But Yang's in a very similar position to that. He's maybe not got that final end product, he's maybe not got that final delivery, but one thing he does is he takes 2 defenders with him. That then opened up a lot of space for Ralston to just put these balls into nobody, because Kyogo's not going to win that against all these people. And with a bit more time, and if we put Yang on the ball like, as deliberately as we put Palma on the ball for such extended periods of the match, I'm quite confident we would have got more out of Yang in this regard, because as soon as you've got 2 people having to face up to you, it just gives somebody else space, man. It just makes something happen. And it's that fear, even that X factor of, oh, well, if this guy gets by us, he's going to be really nippy and really direct, and he will pass, he will not shoot, like maybe like somebody like Kyogo with that pace, as soon as he gets through, he's shooting. But if Yang gets through, you're then needing to worry about runners, late arrivals to the back post, guys on the edge of the box. etc. So it did feel like the first 10 minutes of the second half, Yang he got some moments. He got his wee moment in the sun. And then we get the changes. Now, when the changes happen, for me, is when the game began. And you'll see what I mean in a second. We take Ralston off, which I thought was quite surprising. I thought Taylor would have been the sub, and we would have got Valley on, perhaps, just because Taylor's just came back from an extended period out. Ralston wasn't bad, right? But all of his crosses were terrible. And he did have like one moment, maybe two, where he was found found wanting in possession to keep it clean, as it were. But for the most part, Ralston was Ralston, and it was pretty good. So I was surprised that AJ was brought on, because this is a guy that really could have done with the rest, quite frankly. Bernardo comes off for Hatate, and this is where I start to get excited, because then Palma comes off for Dyson, which I think everyone in the stadium knew that was about to happen. But the midfield for me, the midfield I wanted to see in this game was Hatate, Engels and McKeown, and this is exactly what we got from the 57th minute when this triple sub happened, because Engels or Bernardo, like we've seen in that position at the weekend against Motherwell, he's fine, but he's not quite got that range of passing and that McGregor has, certainly when he's in this role. And when we're playing a team that isn't really going to cause us many problems offensively, what this player has, progressive-wise, offensively, that can do in the final third is way more valuable than their defensive qualities, which is why McGregor always plays in this position. But what I would love the evolution to be, and I said this on the preview, is we get Engels into this position, and yeah, for the now, because McGregor was out, we play McKeown and we play Hatate. And I think you've seen for the opening like 5 or 10 minutes that this was the team. McKeown, Hatate and Kyogo were just right in Dundee's face, gave them lots of problems when we were in the final third. They were really happy to link up with each other, they were trying different things, and the energy that Rio has to recover, the energy that McKeown has to recover, it just meant that we were never losing the ball for too often, we were always getting it back, and then we were, trying to get back into these positions. And for me, this was the thing that really swung the match, is having that extra energy, that extra pressure in the middle. So it just means these players here just are less comfortable to mark one guy. It was less predictable what we were going to do as well. And that quick change up of gear, because Dyson coming into the left and Johnston coming on to the right, as well as those two guys in the middle, transformed the team. We went from being what I would consider in the first half, bang average Celtic, run-of-the-mill Scottish team, to very quickly a top of the table, a Champions League looking side, as it were, a cut above the domestic opposition like we should. And it doesn't take long once this kind of change, this new invigorated Celtic are on the pitch. 3 minutes later, Yang gets down the right hand side here and manages to cut it back for Alistair Johnston to get the ball in. And wouldn't you know it, to be Alistair Johnston to squeeze one in at the front post here to get us off the mark and get us control of the match. And it really did feel at that point it was game over for Dundee. I was really happy for Yang, he took his man on, he got into the box. There was a little bit of a deflection on the cross, so I don't know if he gets counted for the assist. He probably doesn't, to be quite honest with you, but he made that happen. I think we all know that, we all seen that. And for me, it felt like for a minute after the Sligo hat-trick that maybe Palma was elevated above Yang in the pecking order, but I really do hope that that is amended after this game, because Yang, if you have to bring him on, he can do something. And if we're not going to give Palma set pieces, really, I don't know what he does give you when he comes off the bench, or as you can even see here from the start. And then after that, we see Yang come off for Forest in the 62nd minute. And I was saying this to McBride Ace, we were at the game together, we were sitting side by side. Forest gave us nothing second half, really. He was like a man down. Alistair Johnston was very prominent in this game. He got man of the match in the end, would you believe, from the bench. But Forrest did lay haw in this game. I really wouldn't have haven't seen the game, unfold. Could you maybe just left Yang on, and then we could have maybe subbed Taylor for Valley later on, or maybe done something else, I don't know. Just give Yang that bit more of an opportunity that Palma got in the first half. Give Yang a bit more of that in the second half. You get 10, 15 minutes of it perhaps, but not much. Palma got, as I say, 40 opportunities in the first half. But Engels in this position looked super comfortable. I would say we're on cruise control, but I don't mean that in a bad way, but he just looked like he knew where to be to stop. This Silla in the second half got a wee bit of the beans about him to try and drive up the pitch, and it just looked at Engels, always knew where to be, positioning was really good, and his passing is just way better than Bernardo's in terms of forward, certainly. And it just felt like we had much more of a control of the game, and Engels looked like, he just looked way comfortable. He just looked like in his habitat, and having guys like McKeown and Hatate nipping in front of him was absolutely brilliant to see, because like I mentioned in the preview, what I want the evolution to be here is this is not McKeown, this is McGregor. And if we could get McGregor and Hatate playing in front of Engels, this could be the level up that the midfield has been missing for the last couple of seasons in terms of having that. And I know Engels isn't a defensive midfielder, but he's got a wee bit better positioning in that regard. He's just physically a bit stronger, a bit harder to get past. and maybe that could be the solution. So I was really happy to see this unfold throughout the second half, especially what we've seen with Taylor, Dyson and Hatate. I feel like that left-hand side really levelled up and really gave us, our real stranglehold in the match. At 1-0 up, with this quality coming fresh off the bench, it just felt like Dundee were just sinking. And it didn't take long before the pressure was mounting. Kyogo gets played through an absolute belter, gets one-on-one with the goalkeeper and gets blatantly brought down for a penalty. I've got no idea. Well, actually, I say I've got no idea what VAR was checking out, but there was like a potential foul on a Dundee player around this zone of the pitch before we got into the box for the penalty. So maybe they were checking that out. I didn't watch it on TV, of course. But it felt wild that they were checking the penalty for so long, because it was right in front of me. You could see it was blatantly pulled down. It was clearly a penalty. And then Big Arnie steps up and slots it away. And at 1-0, if it wasn't game over, at 2-0, it was firmly game over. And I was really encouraging and really hoping Celtic would kick on from this point here, because this game was now going to set up to be a bit of a statement. We started off the second string and we end up winning the game eventually. But obviously we need the first team players to come off the bench and get it over the line and all the rest of it. But if the scoreline was a bit more prolific than 2 or 3-0, then Brendan Rodgers, I said in some group chats when the lineup came out, he's been sniffing his own farts too much, thinking he can play Palma Yang and Ralston from the beginning, with Vickers just back from injury, with Taylor just back from injury, and make this work. And hey, it did work in the end. But if we scored another couple of goals, I think Brendan could have been a bit more chuffed with himself than what he certainly is by the end of it. The 76th minute comes around and we see Vickers come off for Scales. So we get some more minute management for him. Scales comes into the left, Trusty moves over to the right. And again, like defensively, I just don't think we missed a beat. I don't think this causes any problems. And I think what we're now seeing with Trusty, and this is part of the thing that I've been talking about on the channel, is like Trusty for £6 million, we would expect him to be better than Scales. We would expect him to be a guy that would push Scales out the team. Now, I don't think he's clearly better than Scales. For me, Scales is still quite firmly nailed on. But what Trusty's got to over the last week is he is now firmly on the rank in terms of the centre-back taxis that we've got here. I would quite happily play any combination of the three at this stage. I think Trusty is shown to be on the level of Vickers, of Scales, and he's got more pace than Vickers. He's a better passer than Scales. Scales and Vickers are probably slightly both better defensively, as it were, in different areas. But they've got different strengths and weaknesses against each other, and I really like how that's kind of developing out. I do feel bad for Trusty Bucks. I do feel that with his growing performances and how he's developing against Aberdeen at the weekend, I think we're going to see Scales and Vickers. I think that will be the centre-back partnership for this next run-in. But Vickers is probably not going to complete a lot of 90 minutes, so we're probably going to see a lot of Trusty either from the start. Maybe Vickers comes on later on, depending on how games are going and what the opponent is, and vice versa. Maybe we see Trusty come off the bench to just shore things up, as it were. And for all the hype coming into this game, I thought McKeown was somewhat anonymous in this game. I don't think he was, certainly wasn't the match-winning version of himself that we've seen over the last little while. And Hatate, I think, was itching to get involved in the scoreline somehow with a goal or an assist or whatever, but it sadly didn't come to him. But a few more minutes on the pitch, it could have happened. But I felt like once it went to 2-0, a little bit of that impetus to go and win the game kind of drained out of us a little bit, as well as like Dundee obviously just knew they were never going to get back into it. And if we have a look at the player ratings for this match here, you'll see like some very impressive scores, some very impressive showings here. Kasper Schmeichel with his clean sheet and his like first minute save brings him a 68.9 out of 100, which is very, very credible. But I must say, Arne Engels really does grab the eye here with a 90 out of 100 performance. Of course, scoring that penalty is absolutely fantastic, but he's won a tackle, he's blocked a cross, he's won 6 duels, he did lose 7, but 6 duels is pretty decent. 60 accurate passes, 34 of them into the final third, only missing 7 passes. But look at this, a lot of this comes from the corners and stuff like that, but 10 balls into the box, 4 attempted assists, a big chance created, as well as his shots on target and a few contests won. Very good performance from Engels, although the first half he was rather anonymous, I felt, minus that chance that Palma made for him. But in the second half, it really felt like he really went up a few levels. Big Paul O'Bernardo was pretty decent as well in that defensive midfield position, and I think that is his natural habitat. No tackles won, 6 duels won, having lost 4 is a good ratio. That's net 2. 41 accurate passes, 22 of them getting into the final third. And final third presence, absolutely nothing. And again, you feel that with Bernardo, he's way more comfortable not needing to go into the final third. Yeah, he's happy to arrive in the final third late on the edge of the box to bang a shot in or play somebody in if we're really dominating possession. We've seen that for Celtic. We've seen it in highlights for Portugal under 21s. But like I've always said on this channel, he's not a final third player. He doesn't want to be there. He struggles. He wants to turn back and play safe all the time. And again, we're seeing good performances out of him in a deeper position, which was good to see as well. Taylor getting the 90 minutes on his comeback from injury. 2 tackles won, very impressive. No interceptions, 3 duels, 96 accurate passes. 47 of them into the final third, which was really good. 12 missed passes for 19 possession loss in total. And then final third balls. 10 balls into the box. A lot of these were overlaps from Palma, which was good to see. Because Taylor doesn't really do overlaps too often, so it felt like he was really trying to help his pal out or help his teammate out by giving him an out, giving him an easy option to play with here. So good shift in from Yeo Taylor. If we have a look at Lewis Palma, again, this is the thing that I've maintained. This guy is like a statistical god. You know, if you actually watch him playing football, you'll see what he's like. But if you were just to look at his ratings and his statistics, you'd think, oh, this guy's a player. No defensive statistics of any note, of course. In possession, 47 accurate passes, 36 of them in the final third, 6 accurate long balls, 6 missed passes total, 12 possession lost. I actually meant to bring this up earlier, but there was a moment in the first half where Ralston zinged the ball on the diagonal, and I was in the stand, I wasn't watching it on TV, so maybe you guys can help me out here. He shat it from the ball. Like, the ball was coming down, and he should be taking it on his chest, knock it with the shoulder and run onto it, knock it with your head and run onto it, bring it down with your feet or something, but it looked like he absolutely just got scared of the ball, and it bounced and ran out. And in the early sequences of the second half, obviously the crowd was on him, had a bit of pressure. He literally ran the ball out. The ball got away from him. He ran the ball out for a throw-in in their attacking third. 12 possession loss in total. And they were all pretty frustrating, is why I'm bringing that up. And then for a guy that's not taking set pieces, 7 penalty area entries, 4 attempted assists. So 4 balls he's played have resulted in shot creation, chance creations, which is pretty decent. One was a big chance created, probably for Kyogo. He's won a contest, 1 dribble, apparently. I didn't see it, but apparently he did. And a shot on target. Jules won 2. I think that's very generous as well. Jules lost 5. Again, very generous for me. But he comes in with a 56 out of 100, which is just behind Kyogo, who lost a lot of points. 3 big chances missed to come out this game with in the end. But he won the penalty for us, which is fantastic, of course. 7 passes, 3 of them in the final third. Again, just another one of those games where we bury Kyogo within the opposition defence and then just try and get him these chances. And honestly, like, he has to be more clinical. It might not just be taking the chance himself, but fucking square someone else in for a tap-in. He will never do it. Boils my blood, no end. And then we've got Yang on a 42. And again, I think all the stuff Yang did, this was really in his 10 minutes that he got played on in the second half. A few balls into the box. A big chance missed for himself. I missed that one myself. Must have been in the first half. 35 accurate passes, 22 of them in the final third. Now, I'm not sure who my man of the match would have been, right? But Alistair Johnston is a great candidate for it. He gets his goal off the bench, which is ultimately, for me, like the game-winning goal. The one that breaks the deadlock and gives us the comfort that we need. Defensively, didn't have to do anything in this game. No tackles, no interceptions. Only actually won 1 duel with losing 3. 33 accurate passes, 19 of them in the final third. And you just felt he was a lot more strong, a lot more composed, and Dundee were less willing to engage with him. He got his shot, he created another big chance for somebody as well, and he very much looked the part. I think looking at the ratings and thinking about the matches I'm talking, I don't know, like, I really don't know who I would have gave man of the match to be honest with you. I think Trusty is maybe in with a shout because he did look just really good and composed. Taylor, like, as we've seen with the pass count here, let's look at Trusty. How many passes did Trusty get on? 104. 31 of them in the final third. 6 duels won, 1 interception, a tackle as well. Very impressive performance from him. Nothing in the attacking sense. Big Vickers did good without completing the 90 minutes. Again, defensively, Vickers had nothing to do. 90 passes, but very formidable. And Scales, when he came on, did he have anything to do defensively? I think he should have got an interception. That's why I wanted to check, but he didn't. I know he didn't get much time on the pitch, but just wanted to have a wee peek at that. But yeah, I don't know if maybe Taylor would have been my man in the match. I get Johnston giving it. I don't want to take it away from him or anything like that. Statistically, it could have been Arnott Engels very easily. But as we zoom out of this game, it's a very convincing 2-0 result. On paper, it looks like we've heavily rotated the squad. We've still managed to get out of it with a clean sheet and the 3 points, which is great. And now it is all eyes on the semi-final, on the Leipzig match, and then the little run-in that we've got thereafter, because we've been building up momentum, we've been building up progress, you know, where it feels like we've got the draw against Bergamo, we're domestic dominance. We're rotating. We're doing all this great stuff. But we need to win the semi-final against Aberdeen. We need to win against Leipzig, or get a draw at least, I think, to keep this kind of momentum going. And yeah, I did say that. For Leipzig, we'll preview it in due course, but, they're not fully armed up to the gunnels at the moment. This is a great time to be confident as a Celtic team. And with the kind of changes and the guys that have been injured and we've been bringing back and all the rest of it, I think against Aberdeen at the weekend, I think against Leipzig, we're going to see a true reflection of what the best 11 actually is in Brendan Rodgers' eyes at the moment. At centre-back, at left-back, at midfield. I think the forwards kind of pick themselves at the moment, sadly. But it feels like, we've set a great foundation, a great platform now for the squad, getting a lot of guys, a lot of meaningful minutes, as well as, like I mentioned, Cup semi-final, top of the league, doing well in the Champions League, where now we're just ready to spring forward and really just kick on in a big, big way. And if we were to win or not lose, if we were to not lose over the next 3 or 4 matches in all competitions, we will be in dreamland, guys. We'll be doing so well. I'm so excited to see the next couple of weeks how they unfold. I hope you enjoyed this one, guys. Don't forget to get into the comment section and let me know your thoughts and feelings on screen, and now some other stuff that we've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We're pushing for 10,000 subscribers. Hail, hail, and Mon the Hoops!